Okay, ladies and gents, we have got some disturbing developments to discuss today. And not just today, this has been happening for the last few days now, but it's really ramped up today because the NATO meeting is going on. So of course the press is releasing a lot of the things that are being discussed. And depending on how you look at it, if you like war, then it's positive for you. If you like peace, then it's very negative for you. Because the first thing that has come out today is out of Poland, and this is from the general of the army. He has called for preparing Polish soldiers for full-scale conflict. Poland has also increased troops at its eastern border and implemented the East Shield program to strengthen defenses against Belarus, but also in preparation for Russia. So what they've said is that they are starting this new campaign now then to increase the troop numbers from 175,000 up to 300,000 troops. And this is in accordance with some of the NATO discussions that are going on right now. In effect, I'll summarize part of it here because there's a lot to go over. In effect, they're saying they just don't have the troop numbers for full-scale conflict at the moment with Russia. So there's these new proposals for each country, not only to increase their military budgets past 2% of GDP, they're aiming for about 2.5% or more if possible, but also to start this massive recruitment campaign. They're saying that they need a lot more boots on the ground. And of course there's discussion about men and women as well. Should women be conscripted? This is the big debate at the moment, so they're talking about this also, because there has been a big backfire in Germany around the conscription of women. So that looks like it may backtrack now, and they're saying that it's not appropriate and it should only be men that are part of this conscription. Now we've got more on Germany, but we'll come to that in a moment, because Poland has also just committed, there was a meeting with Zelensky, Poland has committed to shooting down Russian missiles over the Ukrainian territory. Zelensky met with the Polish Prime Minister to sign a military agreement, and Tusk said that Ukraine should not cede any territory whatsoever to Russia, and they will give full military support whatever is needed. Those are the words that were used. And we'll talk about what Keir Starmer, the new British Prime Minister, has said as well. So if you thought the Conservatives, the last government, were giving a lot of support to Ukraine, you haven't seen anything yet with the new announcements. And when they actually met and they hugged and all this, Starmer and Zelensky, there was a lot of hush-hush words going on. But basically, you can pretty much read the writing on the wall with what was said. He said that we're a new government, we're not going to be like the last government, we're going to help you whatever it takes, similar to Poland. Biden has also had a lot to say. He has come out fighting quite hard, a lot of strong statements. He said that the next phase is going to be air defense systems. He's sending new air defense systems to Ukraine. And in a joint statement between Washington, The Hague, Copenhagen, etc., they have announced or confirmed the delivery of US-made F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine, which will be in operation in the coming weeks. So apparently there's quite a lot of these fighter jets. We haven't got the accurate numbers at the moment, but there's a lot of them being sent from various NATO allied countries, and they are going to be used fighting against Russian fighters. Also, they say initially it's going to be for defensive purposes, so they'll be used to take out Russian equipment on the ground and also Russian planes in Ukrainian airspace. But they said that they're not going to rule out actually using these planes to attack Russian targets inside Russia. Now, think about that for a moment. That is a further escalation of this conflict, and Putin's already come out and made some quite strong statements about this, that if Western fighter jets are used to attack Russian facilities and positions, etc., then there's going to be further escalation. And as I've said a few times over the last couple of weeks to each and every one of you, I really do think you need to start thinking about a plan B here. You really do. I've got my plan B and my plan C, and I guess we can say a plan D. And it involves all sorts of strategies, from alternative income streams, so that no matter what happens, I'm not going to get drafted. I will be elsewhere. You can buy very low cost visas as well. There's all sorts of digital nomad visas, right through to, you can get medical visas these days for all sorts of stuff, like baldness. If you've got a bald head, you can get a medical visa these days in some countries for, you know, however long it takes to take care of these things. So there are a lot of options, and as I've mentioned a couple of times now, you can get my latest program, the Cashflow Blueprint. This teaches you about making money outside of the normal economy, within the alternative economy, because you know, as I've said a lot of times, I'm not going to get drafted. People keep asking, am I still on the reserve? And the answer is no, but kind of. And that's because when I served in the British Army, I joined as a boy soldier anyway, but you're on the reserve until you're 40 years old. So I'm actually off the official reserve now, but that doesn't really mean anything, because you look at previous conflicts and previous wars, and they drafted people right up to 55 years old. So it doesn't really make any difference, I don't think. But one thing I can tell you for sure is that I'm not going to be getting involved in any of this. No, thank you. You know what they say, all wars are bankers' wars, no matter how you look at it. And people seem to think this one is different. It's not. Look at all the funding, look where the money goes. People think all this money is going to Ukraine. It's not. The money is not going to Ukraine. We've covered this in so many videos now. We've investigated the money and we've investigated the flow, and we can see where the money's going, and it's basically ending up in all these huge companies, these huge corporations and weapons manufacturers and shareholders and dividends and all the other stuff. It's the weapons that get sent to Ukraine, not the money. And Keir Starmer has just announced even more funding to the conflict here. So anyway, to wrap up what I'm saying, you don't want to get put into a position where you have no choice, where you're forced into something. Look at, you know, if you're Polish, I know I've got a lot of Polish people who are subscribers here, which is great, because I think the Poles know that how much I love Polish people. You're one of my favorite peoples, and have been for a long time, ever since I lived in the UK, because Polish people are kind, honest, they're hard working, and there's no nonsense. So I'm really interested to know in the comments what you think of this whole situation going on. Do you see that this is moving towards conflict? Because that is what I see for Poland and a lot of other countries that are very close to Ukraine. Now, Keir Starmer has just given the go-ahead for missiles to be fired inside of Russia. So these are British-made missiles. I haven't got the name here, but I think they're called Storm Shadow missiles. I think that's the one that are going to be used. The UK has also promised another £3 billion. So this is on top of the £12 billion that has been sent. And they're also about to send a new package of artillery and 90 Brimstone missiles in the coming weeks. And also, this was a really interesting one that was said. Let me just get the quote here. Okay, Starmer has informed Zelensky that the new chief of the defense staff is already bumping up military recruitment in order to bolster troop numbers. Tell me something, what do you think that means? Because I'm just going to apply logic and common sense here. That sounds to me as though they are bumping up the British military numbers for a reason. Doesn't that sound like it to you? Now, it could be for defense. Maybe they're doing it because they're concerned and they're doing it for defense. But maybe it could be to bolster the troop numbers in Ukraine. Because let's be honest, we all know that the number of men fighting in Ukraine now has dropped massively. The casualties have been horrendous, absolutely horrendous. So it's only a matter of time before Ukraine runs out of soldiers. I'm sorry to say that. I know it's not a nice thing to talk about, but it really is only a matter of time, as tragic as it is. So what's going to happen? Because NATO's already said that surrender or defeat is not an option. They will do whatever it takes. So it says to me that they're going to need troops from elsewhere. So when all these other NATO members are talking about bolstering troops and doubling troop numbers and everything else, it says to me conflict. It says to me that they're going to send Western troops to Ukraine eventually. I don't know when that will happen, but that is what it's looking like. And I would highly recommend that you just don't even get involved in this. I served in the army. I did it for 10 years. So I've seen it all. I've pretty much seen it all. I've been to a lot of different countries. I know how it works from the bottom right through to the top. And I've seen a lot of tragic things as well, with guys who just shouldn't have been there in the first place, who didn't make it home. So I would honestly say, if you are not cut out for that kind of thing, you need an alternative plan. Because for some of you, I do worry, especially when I read the comments. But I won't say any more on that, because I wanted to move back to what Keir Starmer has said then. He's now promised £3 billion a year to Ukraine. But at the same time, they've just said that there isn't any money left. So you got Rachel Reeves saying, there's no money. Keir Starmer's saying, there's no money. The Tories have left us with no money for this new government. And then they're pledging £3 billion a year to Ukraine, but there's no money for anything. And then they said, and this is absolutely 100% true. You ready for this? Now they've said that they are going to be able to save a lot of money. And one of the ways they're going to do that is to let out criminals from prison early. Yes, they're going to start letting out criminals from prison. And this is so crazy and ridiculous. And we've talked about this a lot, but let's just go over this lesson again. You look at countries that are hard on crime, they don't have much crime. Therefore, you don't have a huge bill to the taxpayer for prisons. You look at countries like the US, the UK, who are very soft on crime, and it results in a lot more crime because there isn't really a punishment for it. You look at what the president of El Salvador has just done. And you know, the West, the Western leaders, they hate this guy. They cannot stand him. And he's a Christian as well, by the way. That's another interesting one. And he's very open about that. But they just cannot stand him because what's he done? He's gone very tough on criminals. He's completely cleared out one of the most dangerous countries in the world, and it's now one of the most safest countries in the world, or at least in South America anyway, one of the safest countries. So how has he done this? Is it rocket science? No, it's so simple. He increased the police force, he got all of these gangs off the street, and he made the punishment severe so that less people will commit crimes, which has worked. He's increased the prison places, the amount of prisons and the places in the prisons, and he's got those prisoners working, so it isn't a huge burden to the taxpayer. Surely this is all common sense and logical, but not in the West, no, because we have these weird ideals and we've taken human rights to a whole new level, and it's just not a deterrent. People are not afraid of going to prison in especially the UK anyway, and now they're talking about letting out all these prisoners so they can save money and reduce the overcrowding in prisons. Obviously that's not the answer, but hey, this is the clown world that we now live in. But another thing that's just come out within the NATO meeting is a letter has just been released by 60 experts. Let me just tell you who these people are. In fact, there's too many of them. 60 foreign policy experts have just warned that advancing Ukraine's NATO membership would trigger NATO's Article 5, requiring Western states to enter a nuclear conflict with Russia eventually, and risk turning Ukraine into a prolonged conflict site between nuclear powers. The letter argues that this move could potentially unravel NATO itself. So you've got these experts, top experts in the world from all sorts of different places here, warning against all of this. They're actually giving a really strong warning against all of this. But yet, no one seems interested. They don't want to hear it. There was a speech in the European Parliament the other day as well, warning about a number of things, and the guy just got booed off stage, and everyone's chatting amongst themselves or on their phone and all sorts of other things. Because these leaders now are not what they used to be. They don't really care. They just have their own agenda of what they're trying to achieve, and that's pretty much it. And let me tell you another thing that NATO have just announced that they're going to do. Here we go. They're going to approve a new command center in Germany to coordinate training and equipment donations to Ukraine. So this is going to involve 700 personnel from NATO countries, and this is in preparation for future events. What exactly are these future events? We're not sure, but you should see the amount of troops now that have been positioned on the border here and in these NATO countries to the east. It's obvious, ladies and gents. I keep seeing these ridiculous comments saying, oh no, this isn't going to escalate. Putin's going to surrender soon, and that's that. Once he, blah, blah. He's not going to surrender. Anyone who thinks Putin is going to surrender, I'm just baffled by the thought process behind this. People said the same thing to me before. Oh, well, just wait till these sanctions hit Russia and then Putin's going to fold. And I said, are you feeling okay? Are you feeling okay? Of course he's not going to fold. He's just going to bypass the sanctions with an alternative payment system and also gold bullion and things like that. That's exactly what he's done. He sold all of his energy elsewhere. Some of these policies are so ridiculous. It's unbelievable. And funny enough, that's what they've just announced. They've just announced this new payment system. We've been talking about this for a while now, this new BRICS payment system. And they've just started outlining how it's all going to work. And they're just talking about the new BRICS members to come in this year. So remember, the original was Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And then last year, they added another 5 new members because Argentina decided not to join. They want a closer alliance with the US. But they added all these new members. And then this year, there's going to be even more new members. And one of them, which is a very controversial member, is Malaysia. And he said he's not even going to wait for the membership to come through. He's already starting to do all the trade and all the arrangements with Russia now. He's basically saying that they haven't got time to wait for everything to come through because Malaysia needs an economic recovery right now. So, ladies and gents, I hope I've put a good case across to you today for what is coming. And I'm trying to reiterate this as often as I possibly can because a lot of people just don't see what is coming. People just think nothing bad's going to happen, everything's going to be fine, Putin's going to surrender, and all these other very strange things I keep hearing. This is going towards conflict, and you need a get out of jail free plan here. If you understand the Monopoly reference there, you need a backup plan. So I really do highly recommend you check out the program, my latest program, in the description below or the pinned comment. But actually all my programs at the moment are on this 90% off sale until I finish recording. Once I finish recording this new course, then they'll all go up to full price. So that is it for today. I will see you again tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, God bless, and look forward to catching up with you tomorrow.